So why do you think that when it's something that we love or like, it becomes that much harder to let it go, even when we know it's not good for us? And then how can we kind of change the narrative of just staying in a bad situation because it makes us feel good, or the person makes us feel good, or the thing makes us feel good, or the job?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good question. And you're right in that we talk about letting go a lot. And what's been really interesting is from the feedback from the book, that chapter really stands out. In fact, I think it was like last week or the week before, someone said, you should do a TED talk on this, right? On letting go. What I recognize in myself and in others, that is not just about whether you like it or not. Because there are things that I know as a former um, domestic violence shelter program director, even when those things like abuse or neglect, if you're a child, or something that isn't necessarily good to you, is present, there's still a difficulty. You tussle with the idea of letting go. So, what I realized is that it doesn't just have to be good for you or to you. What it does have to be is something that is attached to some grand idea, fantasy, or hope for the future. We are stuck in the past often, and so yeah, it's hard to let go, right? But again, we know and have experienced that thing as good in some way, and so that's why it's difficult to move on. But when it comes to the relationships that we had hope that we will one day have beautiful children and a white picket fence and have this title and in this community, or the job that we thought would get us out of the hood or get us out of our financial situation, or give us something that we can brag about over Thanksgiving dinner, so that we're not always competing with our siblings who look like they're having it all together. It's that hope that the thing will create a reality around what we fantasize. And so we're not just letting go of a person. We're not just letting go of a relationship. We're not just letting go of a business or a business idea. We're letting go of what that meant to us, what that can bring to us in the future, and how it can add to our story.
I like that. And I think once people can let something go and just like freely release it, it gives you room to accept new things. Like,
Yeah.
because you can't get nothing else if you're holding on so tight to what was, instead of just kind of like looking forward and opening your arms to what can be. So
Mhm.
I love that. The one of the next things that you talked about was self-care. And self-care to me is so interesting because it's like a buzzword. Now it's like a buzzword, and it's also an aesthetic. Like, people have designed products, clothing, everything around self-care.
Mhm.
Um, and it's become more of like an aesthetic versus an actual practice. Because what I found is self-care looks different for everybody. So it's like we find ourselves performing the act and not actually getting any benefits from it, and then we're like back in the rut and we really don't know why. So how do you think we can recreate what self-care habits look like for us individually,
Mhm.
so that we can kind of move that personal needle, so it won't feel like, oh, I have to get into yoga and then go to the spa and then get my nails done, and then it's like, and then at the end of the day I still feel empty because it's not tailored
Mhm.
to me.
Yeah. Well, as you can see, there's a theme with every habit. I talk about things that are trending, things that we already want to do, things that have a hashtag assigned to it. And then I give a different perspective. Self care has to support your well being, it has to be something that actually makes you being you easier. Or you being you, something that you could do with more ease. And so, if you're getting your nails done, but you still struggle with your relationships, when you get back home to where the relationship is a struggle or the relationship is toxic, that's why you don't feel like you've recovered, because you're right back where your need was not met, or right back where there was a deficit. And so my approach to self-care is to fulfill a need. My approach to self-care is to fill in a void, or to support or contribute to a deficit. And so a lot of people were coming back to me and they're like, I'm doing self-care, I'm doing
Mhm.
everything I'm talking about. I'm going to yoga, I'm eating better, I'm doing all the things. But I'm like, did you address your core needs? Did you address the complaint that you use to stop you from being who you're called to be? Or are you just doing what's trending? Or do you just want to take a picture? Or do you just want to say that you went to the spa, that you got your hair done and your nails done? We have to really start addressing our needs.
I like that because I think again it's very performative and we feel like we're not getting enough out of it. But it's
Mhm.
like once you realize, okay, the mother of three is her self-care might look like just 15 minutes sitting in silence. Someone
Right.
else's self-care really might be like taking swimming lessons. It could be
Mhm.
so different and it doesn't have to look the same. And I think we're starting to get there, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be a
Hopefully, the
little.
book will help. You're right about that. So, I have a need to be alone, but I have a
Mhm.
family. So, I use my drives in the car. That's why I was talking about the music, right?
Yeah.
Because I was ready to answer because that's a part of my self-care. I
Mhm.
love how music, for one, it's soothing to our nervous system because it helps to elicit feel-good hormones. So does my drive alone, but also so does working with certain clients. I have a need to feel seen. If I have a
Mhm.
client who I can't relate to or they're not getting me, and when I say feel seen, I don't mean like exposure and looking at me. I mean my point of view is resonating and aligning with you. You are called to the work that I do, that type of seen. If that doesn't happen, then I don't feel good in my work. So self-care for me is to only take on certain clients. So when we look at self-care like that, then we are supported.
Mhm. That makes